my lovely gem. Welcome back. Or if this is your very first time here, welcome home. I'm so glad you found this show. I'm Lynnet Perez, your host, your hype woman, and your big sister in healing and confidence. This is She's a Gem podcast, the show where we'll talk about all the things nobody else will say out loud. Today, I have a question I want you to really sit with before you answer. Have you ever looked back at a relationship, a partner, a family member, a close friend, and thought, how did I not see that? How did I not see what was happening to me? How did I let it go on for so long? And why didn't I catch the signs? If that question has ever kept you up at night, this episode is for you. Today, we are talking about the signs of a toxic relationship, and more importantly, the reason why most of us don't see them when we are living inside them. Because this is not about being naive or weak. This is actual science behind why toxic relationships are so hard to spot. And by the end of this episode, you are going to understand exactly why you missed the signs. And you're going to release that self-blame once and for all. So grab your drink, get cozy, and let's get into it. First off, let me say something, and I need you to really hear it before anything else today. You are not stupid for not seeing it. You are not weak for staying. And you are not dramatic for finally walking away. And you are absolutely not crazy for second guessing everything you've experienced. You were targeted, and the tactics used against you were specifically designed so that you could not see them clearly while you were in the relationship. Hold on to that, because we're about to walk through 7 signs of a toxic relationship. And for every single one, I'm going to tell you not just what it looks like, but why you missed it, because that is the part nobody really talks about. And the why is where your healing begins. This applies to all kinds of toxic relationships, not just romantic ones. A toxic parent, a toxic best friend, a coworker who made your life miserable for years. The patterns are the same. Your experience is valid no matter where or who caused it. I'm going to walk you through 7 red flags that show up in a toxic relationship. Keep in mind, none of these flags fly bright red when you first experience them. They all start out looking like something completely different. That is exactly how they work. Red flag number 1, love bombing. We've all heard of this one. When the beginning feels like a fairy tale. It's where too much is given too fast, where intensity is mistaken for intimacy. In romantic relationships, it may look like declaring, I love you, I've never felt this way before, you're my soulmate within days of knowing each other. They want constant communication, nonstop texting, calling, and they get upset if you need space. Pushing for marriage, moving in immediately, wanting to have babies right away, over-the-top gifts, followed by guilt. After all I do for you. And in a friendship, it could look something like a new friend claiming, you're my best friend. No one understands me like you. You're my best friend. No one understands me like you. Immediately demanding all your free time, demanding high pressure loyalty, and belittling your other friends to isolate. They want exclusivity fast. They get jealous of your other friends, overshares trauma immediately to create forced closeness. In a family scenario, a distant parent suddenly showering a kid with affection, gifts, money, and then uses them as leverage. After everything I've sacrificed for you. They use all this grand praise to gain loyalty or turning on charm to overshadow previous emotional neglect or abuse. We tend to miss these signs because it felt incredible. It felt like being fully, passionately chosen. Research from Cleveland Clinic confirms that love bombing triggers the same reward centers in the brain as genuine love. So you physically could not tell the difference from the inside. So remember, love bombing is not romance. It is a setup. It creates emotional dependency and deep attachment before you have nearly enough time to see who this person actually is. By the time the mask comes off, you're already in it. So the big clue here is, if affection comes with pressure, obligation, or speed, walk away. Red flag number 2, gaslighting. This is when you start doubting your own mind. They say things like, I've never said that. You're being too sensitive. That's not what happened. You're remembering it wrong. Conversations somehow always end with you apologizing. Your emotions are treated like a problem. In a relationship, a good scenario would be something like, they flirt openly and you let them know how you feel. And they respond saying things like, you're just insecure. You're overreacting. Everyone thinks you're overreacting. A friend insults you and they say, wow, can't you just take a joke? A family dynamic would be parent denying the abuse childhood experiences. We were great parents. You made that up. A big red flag clue here is you leave conversations confused and doubting yourself. If that happens, it's a little red flag. Now let's talk about why you missed this. Because it happened so slowly. A 2023 study published in the journal Personal Relationships found that gaslighting starts with subtle fact twisting and progressively worsens until the survivor becomes trapped in a cycle of deep self-doubt. By the time it is severe, you are already been conditioned to trust their version of reality versus yours. Gaslighting is one of the cruelest forms of emotional abuse because it does not just hurt you, it takes away your ability to trust yourself. And that is exactly the point. When you cannot trust your own mind, you stay dependent on theirs. Red flag number 3, isolation. When your world gets smaller and smaller. I can recall this one. This is where they have subtle comments about your friends. She doesn't really have your back like I do. He's needing to know where you are at all times, getting upset when you make plans without him. Over time, you stop going to places just to keep the peace. Your circle shrinks. You don't notice until you look around one day and realize you are completely alone. They could start saying things like, your friends are bad influences. Why do you need girls' night if you love me? They start conflict before every family event, so you stop going. A friend punishes you for spending time with others, triangulates and causes rifts. A family discourages outside support. Don't tell people about family business. You don't need friends, just your family. Isolation is one of the strongest predictors in an intimidating control dynamic. And because this happens early on and it feels like love, wanting to be together constantly felt like devotion, research confirms that our culture romanticizes possessiveness. Jealousy means that they care, which makes isolation look like love until it is already complete. A big clue is here. Your world starts to get smaller. You're saying things like, I didn't realize I had nobody left to call until the day I needed someone to call. Isolation is strategic. When you have no outside perspective, you have no way to see what is being done to you. Your support system is your lifeline. Removing it is how they keep you. Red flag number 4, intermittent reinforcement. This is the hot and cold cycle. This one is huge. Psychology research shows unpredictable rewards create stronger attachment than constant rewards. Same principle behind gambling reinforcement. What it looks like? Some days they are the person you fell in love with. Sweet, present, kind. Then distant, cruel. Then they're warm again. You spend all your energy trying to figure out which version you're going to get today. You work harder and harder to stay in the good phase. So you keep chasing the good version. So you'll have A choral Saturday followed by a romantic Sunday. A silent treatment Monday, then flowers on Tuesday. Another example would be affection withdrawn when you have needs. Breakup threats followed by passionate reconciliation. A friend ignores you for weeks, then returns intensely loving. Parent alternates criticism and approval unpredictably. This often creates trauma bonding. If the highs feel addictive because your lows are painful, that's your clue. Because your brain literally gets addicted to it. Research from the National Center of Biotechnology Information shows that intermittent reinforcement, unpredictable rewards mixed with punishment, triggers dopamine strikes the same way a slot machine does. Your brain gets hooked on the possibility of the reward, not the reward itself. You are not weak. You were neurologically conditioned. If you find yourself saying things like, I keep thinking if I could just figure out what I was doing wrong, I could get the good version of them back. Honey, that is not healthy. This red flag is the one that keeps women in toxic relationships longer than almost anything else. The high of the good moments arriving after all the pain feels more intense than anything in a healthy relationship. The chaos creates the bond. That is not love. That is a trauma response. Red flag number 5, criticizing disguised as a joke or concern. I'm very familiar with this one. This is put downs, always followed by a laugh. I'm just joking. You're so sensitive. Gentle concerns about your decisions, your appearance, your friendships that slowly chips away at your confidence. Nothing you do is ever quite right. Over time, you start editing yourself before they even say a word. They say things like, I'm joking, but you look better if you lost 10 pounds. I only criticize you because I care. No offense, but you're not good with money. I'm just trying to help you improve. Families will say things like, we tease you because we love you. A friend throws public jokes at your expense. Because it starts so small, a comment here, a gentle suggestion there, by the time it is a pattern, you have already internalized it as truth. This form of criticism is one of the most effective tools for eroding self-worth because it bypasses your defenses. It does not feel like abuse. It feels like feedback. People who love you do not chip away at your confidence under the cover of humor. Healthy love builds you up. It does not require you to become smaller to survive it. Remember that, girl. Red flag number 6, walking on eggshells. We know this one. When you lose yourself managing their own emotion. This is when you constantly monitor their mood. You change what you say, what you wear, where you go, not because you want to, but because you are afraid of their reaction. You become a professional at reading the room. Your needs stop mattering a long time ago. You might do things like rehearse texts before sending, scan their mood constantly, hide harmless things to avoid conflict. You feel relief when they're in a good mood. Some of the thoughts or things you might be saying are, don't bring that up. He'll get upset. I never know which version of them I'll get. That is often a sign of fear-based relating. Healthy love feels safe, not hypervigilant, because adapting to keep the peace feels like being a good partner. We are taught, especially as women, that being accommodating is a virtue. Slowly, being a good partner becomes erasing yourself. And the line is so gradual, you never feel yourself crossing it. I forgot what I actually wanted because I was always so focused on what they needed. The moment your peace becomes dependent on managing someone else's emotions, that is not a relationship. That is a performance. and no one should have to perform to earn safety in their own home. Got that? Red flag number 7, making excuses for their behavior to others and to yourself. This is when you become their PR department. You might say things like, they're just stressed. You don't understand them like I do. They had a hard childhood. You justify their behavior to your family and your friends, and more dangerously, you start saying those same things to yourself. If you hear yourself saying things like, they didn't mean it. When they're good, they're amazing. It's my fault for pushing buttons. In a friendship, it might look something like, oh, she's only mean when she drinks. In a family dynamic, you can say things like, oh, that's just how mom is. If you spend more energy explaining behavior than receiving healthy behavior, pay attention. You missed this because you loved them, because you remembered who they were in the beginning, because admitting the truth means your entire world, your plans, your identity, maybe your family changes completely. Research on cognitive dissonance in trauma bonding shows that victims often distort their perception of the relationship to reduce psychological pain. Making excuses is not denial. It is your brain protecting you from a pain that is not ready to face yet. So if you say things like, I wasn't lying to everyone. I genuinely believed my own excuses. I want you to hear that last line again. You genuinely believed in your own excuses. That is not a weakness. That is the human brain doing everything in its power to protect the attachment it has formed. Understanding that it is not making excuses for what happened. It is the very first step to releasing the shame of it. Okay, so now that we've covered the 7 signs, let's talk about something even more important. The real reason you didn't see them. It is not because you were naive or weak or because you made bad choices. It's because your brain was working exactly the way it was designed to work under these conditions. Let me explain. You probably have all heard about trauma bonding. The term was used by researcher Dr. Patrick Carnes. I hope I'm saying his name right. And it describes the powerful emotional attachment that forms in an abusive relationship. Not because the victim is broken, but because of how the human nervous system responds to intermittent reward and threat. Here's what is actually happening in your brain during a toxic relationship. Dopamine. We've heard of that word used a lot when you're talking about fitness. But this is the feel-good chemical that spikes during pleasure and reward. In a healthy relationship, those rewards are consistent. But in a toxic co-relationship, where kindness comes unpredictably between pain, your brain does not get less addicted. It gets more addicted. Research shows that intermittent reinforcement creates what scientists call a reward prediction error. The same neurological process behind gambling addiction. Your brain gets hooked on the possibility of the reward, so you stay trying to win. Then there is oxytocin, the bonding hormone released during physical touch and emotional intimacy. Even in toxic relationships, even in painful ones. That is why leaving someone who hurts you can feel like withdrawal from a drug, because neurologically it is. And cortisol and adrenaline, the stress hormones, they flood your system during the fear and the chaos of a toxic relationship. Over time, your nervous system becomes so used to that heightened state that calm can actually feel wrong. Your body starts to mistake chaos for connection. And one more thing, many women who end up in toxic relationships carry a history of early trauma, a difficult childhood, an inconsistent parent, an early experience that taught him that love comes with pain, and those neural pathways, those patterns your nervous system was trained on, can make a toxic relationship feel familiar in a way a healthy, stable relationship never does. Not because something is wrong with you, but because your system learned to recognize the patterns as normal long before you had the tools to question it. Knowing this does not excuse what was done to you, but it does explain why you stayed, why you didn't see it, why you went back, and why leaving felt like dying, even when staying was slowly killing you. We talked about the signs, the science. Now let's talk about what you do with all of this. First, if you recognize yourself in any of those several red flags today, whether in a relationship you just left, one you're still in, or one from years ago you're still carrying, that recognition is not something to be ashamed of. That recognition is the beginning of everything, because you cannot heal what you cannot name. And today you named it. Second, release feeling shame. Release the question of, how did I not see it? Not because it's not valid. It absolutely is. But because the answer is not because something is wrong with you. The answer is because you were targeted by someone who was very good at making sure you could not see clearly. And because your own beautiful, loyal, loving heart wanted to believe the best in someone. You are not a failure. You are not weak. You are a person who is trustworthy, loyal, kind, and this is who you are. And that is worth protecting, not pushing. Third is healing. Healing from a toxic relationship is not just a mental process. It is a physical one too. Research constantly shows that this kind of trauma lives in your body, in your nervous system, your hormones, your breath. This is why I believe so deeply in energy work, Reiki, somatic practices, and community. Talk therapy alone is often not enough. We have to get the trauma out of the body, not just the mind. And fourth, this is the most important one, knowing that you are enough. You are not damaged goods. You are a woman who went through something hard, who survived it, and who is now doing the brave work of understanding it. That is not the story of someone who failed. That is the story of someone who is becoming. The relationship did not define you. It's what you do with what you have learned from it. That is where your real story begins. And for those of you who would like to catch it early, here are a few questions to ask yourself when you're starting to date someone or with friends. Does this person respect boundaries the first time? Do they handle no well? Do they let me disagree safely? Do they support my other relationship? Are they consistent, not just intense? Do they repair harm without blame shifting? Remember, consistency tells more truth than chemistry. Don't evaluate people by how loved you feel in the high moments. Evaluate them by how safe, respected, and free you feel over time. There is a huge difference. And a quick, simple red flag formula that I like to use while dating or creating new friendship is, if behavior causes you to repeatedly feel confused, guilty, afraid, diminished, isolated, obsessed with fixing things, responsible for someone else's instability, pause and examine patterns, because patterns matter more than incidents. Remember, healthy people are consistent. They apologize without defensiveness. They respect boundaries. They don't push honesty. They don't weaponize vulnerability. And they want you connected to others. They make peace feel normal. And love should not require self-abandonment. Here is one thing many survivors say they missed. They ignored small discomforts because there was no big issue yet. Often, intuition whispers before it screams. Those were some tips some women survivors have mentioned, and hopefully they can help you out. If you are in the middle of this healing journey right now and you need a community of women who truly understand what you are going through, I am currently building you one. The GEM Society is our private membership community for women on exactly this path. There is no judgment. We're just women showing up for each other with the kind of honesty and love that actually changes things. If you're interested, the link is in the show notes. And if you are ready to go deeper, to do the real work in person, surrounded by women who get it, the Return to You retreat is coming in October 2026. This is an immersive experience that combines energy work, trauma-informed movement, yoga, confidence coaching, and the kind of deep community you cannot build over a screen. I want you there. The link is in the show notes. And please, if this episode resonates with you today, share it, text it to a friend, post it in your stories, tag me, give it a thumbs up, because somewhere in your circle right now, there is a woman who is still in the middle of it, still asking herself why she cannot just leave, still wondering if what she is experiencing is even real. This episode might be exactly what she needs to hear today. You could change a life by sending it. And make sure you are subscribed to our YouTube channel and following us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts so you never miss an episode. We are just getting started, and what is coming is going to blow your mind. All right, Gem, that is episode 2. And I'm so proud of you for showing up for yourself today. I know this was a heavy one. I know some of it probably hit places you have been trying not to touch. And I want you to know that feeling right there, that is the beginning of healing. That is what it looks like when light gets into the dark place. You came here today, you stayed, you listened, and that took courage. You were not too much. You were not too broken. You were not too late to see it. You saw it, and now you know. And knowing changes everything. I'm Lynette. This is She's a Gem podcast. And always, always remember, you are a gem. I'll see you next week. Take care of yourself. And remember, growth, empowerment, manifestation. You got this always. Ciao.